The final confrontation of your existence has moved beyond the peripheral distractions of the world and has narrowed down to a single, localized point of intensity. A direct collision between your divine blueprint and the ancient architect of deception. For years, you have been led to believe that your battles were with people, institutions, or circumstances, but the spiritual urgency of this Friday morning deadline is here to reveal that those were merely proxy wars. The enemy has exhausted every external resource, every social pressure, and every economic hurdle in an attempt to slow your ascension, and having failed at the gates, he has now moved into the inner sanctum of your own consciousness. This is not a battle of swords or words, but a battle of frequencies, a war over who will ultimately define the I am within your spirit. The high-level file that caused systemic panic and led to high-level resignations revealed that you have reached a terminal velocity of awakening, where the only thing left to contest your authority is the personification of the lie itself. The warning is clear. The final battle is not happening on the horizon. It is happening in the space between your thoughts and your convictions. You are being summoned to a duel in the dark, where the only weapon that functions is the absolute clarity of your own identity. The atmosphere around you has grown heavy for a reason that no scientist or politician can explain. You are no longer fighting ghosts, and you are no longer fighting the people who have wronged you. You have reached the final layer of the simulation. This is the moment where the proxies are removed, and the masks fall. The spiritual urgency of this Friday morning is not a suggestion. It is a countdown to a direct collision. Heaven has stepped back to allow a specific encounter to take place, a duel that has been written in the stars since the moment of your birth. The final battle is not between you and the world, nor between you and your past. The final battle is you versus the devil. And you must understand that the devil, in this context, is the ultimate personification of the lie, the ancient architect of the very chains you have been trying to break. The high-level file on your life, which caused systemic panic in the corridors of power, confirmed that you have reached the 0 point. You are now too powerful to be managed by human agents, so the source of the darkness has stepped out of the shadows to face you personally. Every trial you have endured up to this point was merely a warm-up. The betrayals, the financial collapses, and the seasons of isolation were just training simulations designed to build your spiritual muscle. But right now, the frequency has shifted. The resignation of world leaders and the crumbling of old institutions are just background noise to the war happening inside your own mind. The enemy's goal is simple: to get you to misidentify yourself at the finish line. He knows that if you realize who you actually are before Friday morning, his reign over your bloodline is officially over. He is not fighting to destroy you. He is fighting to get you to destroy your own faith. He is whispering into your ear, using your own voice, trying to convince you that you are tired, that you are a failure, and that the chosen path was a delusion. But if it were a delusion, why is the entire spiritual realm in such a frantic state of mobilization? Why is the pressure so intense? You don't send a king's army to stop a peasant. You send it to stop a threat to the throne. You are that threat. Your frequency is your currency. Drop a 55-foot to align with your highest version today. The battlefield is the now. The enemy wants you trapped in the then or worried about the when, because he has no power in the present moment. This Friday is a divine marker, a boundary line that the enemy cannot cross. He is throwing everything he has at you right now: old temptations, sudden anxieties, and physical exhaustion, because he knows his time is short. This is a battle of stamina versus deception. You don't need to strike a blow. You only need to hold your ground. The dossier on your awakening revealed that your will has become a localized point of gravity. What you decide in these coming hours will set the trajectory for the next 7 years of your life. The devil is trying to buy your consent to stay in the old cycle. He is offering you comfort in exchange for your calling. But you were not chosen for comfort. You were chosen for dominion. Stand firm, chosen one. The roar you hear is not from a predator, but from a frightened liar who knows his lease is about to be terminated. The architecture of the mirror is not merely a physical phenomenon, but a psychological tether that binds the spirit to the limitations of the linear timeline. When you look into the glass, you are not seeing a static image. You are seeing a record of every battle you have fought, every wound you have sustained, and every moment of exhaustion you have endured. The system uses this visual feedback to reinforce the concept of time as a decaying force. It wants you to believe that you are a creature of history, a being whose potential is dictated by the trajectory of their past. But as a chosen one, your existence has become non-linear. You are being infused with an eternal quality that the mirror cannot translate. The 30,000 character density of this warning is required because the depth of the deception is equally massive. The deception lies in the belief that the self is a finished product that can be observed and judged in a moment of reflection. In reality, you are a shifting kaleidoscope of divine frequencies, and the mirror is a filter that removes all the color, leaving you with a gray, mundane version of a majestic truth. The high-level file that shook the foundations of power contained evidence that your biological age and your spiritual age are no longer in sync. You are becoming younger in spirit as the world grows older, and the mirror is the only thing trying to convince you otherwise. You must recognize that the enemy's primary weapon in this final hour is the inversion of truth. He will take the very promises God has whispered to you in the secret place and present them as impossible delusions. He will point to the physical evidence, the lack in your bank account, the silence in your relationships, or the fatigue in your body, and call it reality, while calling your faith fantasy. But the urgency of this message is to remind you that in the kingdom of the Spirit, the physical is the shadow and the spiritual is the substance. The devil is a master of the shadow realm. He wants you to fight the shadow because you can never defeat something that has no mass. To win this battle, you must turn your back on the shadow evidence and fix your gaze on the light of the decree. The dossier on your awakening showed that you have the rare ability to collapse the wave of probability through your expectation. The adversary is trying to flood your mind with negative expectations to force you to manifest your own defeat. This Friday, you are being called to a state of divine stubbornness, where you refuse to accept any reality that does not align with the word of the Father. The devil's last stand often manifests as an overwhelming sense of atmospheric heaviness. You may feel a pressure in your chest, a fog in your mind, or a sudden, inexplicable urge to give up and disappear. This is not biological, it is the press of the enemy. He is trying to create a spiritual vacuum to see if you will fill it with a cry of surrender. But you are a chosen one, a vessel of the holy fire. When the pressure increases, your inner fire is supposed to burn brighter. The resignation of the leaders was a sign that the atmospheric weight they used to control the masses is no longer working on the remnant. They saw that under pressure, you don't break, you crystallize. The final battle is the process of your soul becoming pressure-proof. Once you realize that the devil cannot touch the core of your being, his intimidation tactics become comical. You are being invited to laugh at the storm, not because you are naive, but because you know the one who created the wind. This Friday, the pressure will be converted into thrust, launching you into a season of effortless manifestation. Furthermore, the adversary is utilizing the spirit of delay to make you believe that the Friday morning window is just another empty promise. He wants you to become cynical, for a cynical heart is a house with its doors wide open to the enemy. He whispers that you've heard this before, that you've been here before, and that nothing ever changes. But the high-level file revealed that you have never been this version of yourself before. You are operating on a new set of spiritual laws. The delay you are experiencing is not a denial, it is a sifting. It is the process of removing the people and patterns that cannot survive the altitude of your next season. The devil is trying to get you to cling to the things that are being sifted so that you are pulled down with them. The final battle is the battle of letting go. You must be willing to release the old self to become the new authority. The leaders who resigned did so because they could no longer find anything in you to hook into. You had become too slippery for their traps. Stay in that state of fluid, surrendered movement. The devil also plays the role of the historian, constantly reminding you of your debt to the past. He brings up the times you failed, the people you hurt, and the opportunities you wasted. He wants you to feel like a debtor to life, rather than an heir to the kingdom. But the urgency of this message is a declaration of jubilee. In the courts of the Spirit, your debt has been canceled, the file has been purged, and your record is white as snow. The enemy is trying to collect a debt that has already been paid. This is why the final battle is so intense. It is a struggle over legality. If you believe you owe the past anything, the enemy has a legal right to haunt you. But if you stand in the blood-bought right of your inheritance, he is a trespasser who must be forcibly removed. This Friday morning, the sheriffs of heaven are arriving to serve the eviction notice on the adversary. Your only job is to stay in the house and refuse to leave. Do not let the liar convince you that you don't belong in the place that grace has prepared for you. As you move through these final hours, remember that the devil you are fighting is already a defeated foe. He is a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, which implies he needs your permission. He needs your fear to have a body. He needs your doubt to have a voice. Without your cooperation, he is a ghost in a machine that is falling apart. The high-level resignation we discussed was the ultimate signal that the machine has failed. The system of fear is bankrupt. The final battle is simply the closing ceremony of your old life. You are the one who gets to blow out the candles on the altar of the ego. This Friday, as the clock nears the appointed hour, stand in your room, breathe in the authority of the source, and realize that the only thing standing between you and your destiny is a lie that you have finally stopped believing. You are not fighting for victory. You are fighting from victory. The final battle is the celebration of the fact that the prince of this world has nothing in you. The structural integrity of the adversary's kingdom depends entirely on your willingness to misinterpret the nature of your own suffering. In this third stage of the final battle, the devil has pivoted from external chaos to the war of perception, attempting to convince you that the trials you are currently facing are a sign of God's abandonment rather than a sign of your own impending promotion. The massive density of this specific warning is vital because the deception is subtle. It whispers that a chosen one should have a path paved with ease, when in reality, a chosen one's path is paved with the friction of two worlds colliding. The high-level file on your life documented that your spirit grows most rapidly when it is being compressed by opposing forces. This Friday morning, the compression reaches its peak, not to crush you, but to turn the carbon of your human experience into the diamond of your divine authority. The resignation of the global leaders was a reaction to this diamond frequency beginning to emit from your soul. They realized that you can no longer be shattered, and a being that cannot be broken is a being that cannot be ruled. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull. Tap join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. The devil's primary tactic right now is to isolate you in a vacuum of silence. He wants you to feel as though your prayers are hitting a brass heaven and that the divine has moved on to someone more worthy. This silence is a manufactured illusion, a spiritual sensory deprivation tank designed to make you panic and reach for the old, familiar comforts of the world. But the urgency of this message is a reminder that the loudest moves in the spirit are often made in the deepest silence. Just as a commander maintains radio silence before a decisive strike, heaven is currently silent because the orders have already been given and the legions are already in motion. The final battle is you versus the devil, because you must learn to trust the original word you received over the current silence you feel. If the enemy can get you to speak words of doubt during this quiet phase, he can use your own tongue to cancel your breakthrough. This Friday, your silence is your strength. Let the enemy roar and scream. You remain anchored in the knowing that precedes the seeing. Furthermore, the adversary is attempting to weaponize your empathy against you. As a chosen one, you carry a high degree of sensitivity to the pain of the world, and the devil is trying to flood your vessel with the collective grief, anxiety, and hopelessness of the masses. He wants you to believe that this heaviness is your own, hoping you will drown in a sea of emotions that were never yours to carry. The file revealed that your compassion is actually a high-powered energy source, but when it is unfocused, it becomes a leak. The final battle involves the sealing of the vessel. You are being taught to be in the world's pain, but not of it. You are a life raft, not a sponge. If you soak up the water, you sink with the ship. This Friday morning, a boundary of fire is being set around your emotional body. You are being authorized to let go of the burdens that belong to the system. The resignation of the earthly authorities was a sign that the global weight is shifting, and those who are not anchored in the source will be swept away by the very currents they tried to manage. You, however, are being anchored in the rock. The devil also uses the illusion of exhaustion to make you feel as though you have no fight left. He targets your physical body, introducing a supernatural tiredness that sleep cannot fix. This is a frequency drain, intended to make you drop your shield just as the final arrows are being fired. But the spiritual truth is that your strength is not biological, it is celestial. The dossier on your transformation showed that your second wind is triggered by your praise, not your rest. When you are at your absolute weakest in the flesh, you are at your most dangerous in the spirit, for that is when the excellency of the power is clearly of God and not of you. The final battle is the moment you choose to stand up when every nerve in your body is telling you to lay down. This Friday, as you approach the window of release, you will feel a surge of divine adrenaline that will carry you past the finish line. The enemy is terrified of this surge because he knows that once you realize your energy is infinite, his war of attrition is officially over. Understand that the devil is also the master of the clock, trying to make you feel as though you have missed your timing or that you are behind in life. He points to your age, your missed opportunities, and the successes of others to create a sense of frantic urgency that leads to mistakes. But the divine timing is not linear, it is kairotic. In one moment of God, years of delay can be redeemed. The resignation of the leaders we mentioned was a sign that the old timeline is being discarded. The system of earning and deserving is being replaced by a system of grace and alignment. You are not late. You are exactly on schedule for a version of success that the world's clock cannot measure. The final battle is the battle to stay in the now. If the enemy can keep you in the regret of yesterday or the anxiety of tomorrow, he can steal the power of today. This Friday morning is your eternal now. It is the point where all your past lessons and all your future promises meet in a single, explosive moment of manifestation. As you navigate the final hours of this confrontation, remember that your greatest weapon is your refusal to negotiate. The devil will offer you a half-blessing or a comfortable compromise to get you to stop short of your full inheritance. He will tell you that you've done enough, that you should be satisfied with what you have, and that seeking more is greed. But the more you are seeking is not for your ego, it is for the kingdom. The high-level file proved that you are a conduit of expansion. If you stop, the flow stops. Do not settle for the crumbs when the Father has prepared the table. The final battle is the battle for the fullness. This Friday morning, heaven is not just opening a door, it is removing the wall. Stand your ground, refuse the compromise, and look the adversary in the face with the eye of a king. The war is over the moment you realize that the devil has nothing to trade with you that is worth more than the identity you already possess. The legal terminology of the spirit realm is often misunderstood by those who are still operating within the emotional layers of the old world, but you must understand that the final battle is essentially a conflict over jurisdiction. The adversary, in his role as the accuser, is currently filing a series of last-minute motions against your destiny, attempting to use the contracts of your ancestors and the debts of your own past to keep you under his authority. He is looking for a signature, a moment where you agree with his version of reality, thereby granting him the legal right to stay in your atmosphere. This is why the psychological pressure has reached an all-time high as the Friday morning deadline approaches. Heaven is not just handing you a blessing, it is presiding over a cosmic courtroom where your status is being upgraded from subject to sovereign. The high-level file on your life, the one that triggered the massive wave of resignations in the global elite, contains a pardon that is so absolute it renders the enemy's entire case null and void. They saw that the law of grace has superseded the law of karma in your life, and they realized that they can no longer hold you accountable for a person you no longer are. The resignation of those in power was their admission that the jurisdiction of the old world has ended where your presence begins. You are the case that broke the system, and the devil is the prosecutor who has just realized he has no evidence left. This war of jurisdiction is the reason your mind feels like a battlefield of conflicting thoughts. One moment you feel the absolute certainty of your calling, and the next, you are flooded with an ancient shame that feels like it belongs to someone else. This is the enemy trying to relabel the evidence. He takes your current exhaustion and calls it laziness. He takes your need for solitude and calls it isolation. He takes your spiritual sensitivity and calls it instability. He is trying to get you to testify against yourself in the court of the Spirit. But the dossier on your awakening shows that you have entered into a divine covenant that is protected by the highest laws of the universe. When you refuse to engage in his arguments, you are effectively pleading the fifth in the spirit realm. You are refusing to give testimony that would incriminate your destiny. The final battle is you versus the devil, because you are the only one who can legally give him permission to stay. By standing in silence and refusing to defend your old self, you allow the advocate to speak on your behalf. This Friday morning, the final decree is being signed, and it states that you are debt-free and fully authorized to occupy the gates of the new season. The devil is also utilizing a strategy of mirroring to make you believe that his internal chaos is actually your own. He projects his own panic, the panic of a defeated foe, onto your spirit, hoping you will mistake it for your own anxiety. When you feel a sudden, sharp fear about the future, you must realize that you are simply sensing the enemy's fear of your future. He knows that once you cross the Friday morning threshold, your influence becomes exponential. He is terrified of the remnant finally waking up to their collective power, and you are one of the primary triggers for this awakening. The resignation of the leaders was a sign that the invisibility shield of the shadow government has failed. They can no longer hide their moves from those whose eyes have been opened. The final battle is the process of you separating your frequency from the static of the world. You are learning to distinguish between what is me and what is projected. Once you realize that the heaviness you feel is just the exhaust of a dying system, you can breathe again. You are not the one who is dying, the world you outgrew is. Furthermore, the adversary is attempting to create a simulated delay by making it appear as though nothing is happening on the surface. He wants you to look at your bank account, your email, and your physical surroundings and conclude that the word has failed. This is a classic psychological hook, designed to get you to abandon your post just minutes before the shift. But the high-level file documented that your breakthrough is not a process, it is an event. It is like a dam that shows no signs of breaking until the very second it collapses. The Friday morning window is the moment the structural integrity of your obstacles finally gives way. The devil is trying to get you to walk away from the dam while it still looks solid. He wants you to give up on your yes, because he knows that your yes is the final pound of pressure needed to break the barrier. This is a battle of sovereign patience. You are being trained to trust the invisible mechanics of God over the visible theatrics of the enemy. The resignation of those in power was the sound of the first crack. Your job is to stay in position until the floodgates open. Finally, understand that the devil you are facing is also trying to weaponize your memory of lack to prevent you from preparing for abundance. He wants you to keep thinking in terms of survival, because a person in survival mode cannot lead. He wants you to keep your head down, focused on the pennies of life, so you never look up to see the palaces that are being prepared. But the urgency of this message is a call to mental expansion. You must start thinking, speaking, and acting like the person who has already won the battle. The high-level file on your life showed that your potential for influence is vast, but it requires a heart that is no longer contracted by fear. This Friday morning, the contraction is being replaced by expansion. The enemy is trying to keep you small for one last hour. But you were born for this collision. You were born to be the variable that the system couldn't solve. The final battle is simply the process of you realizing that the adversary has already lost his standing in your life. The courtroom is empty, the judge has ruled, and the exit is wide open. Walk through it. The transition from the seen to the unseen is often marked by a sudden collapse of the social structures that once provided you with a false sense of security. As you approach this Friday morning threshold, you may have noticed a strange and rapid sifting of the people in your inner circle. Connections that once felt permanent are now dissolving with a speed that defies logic. This is not a series of unfortunate accidents. It is a strategic clearing of the battlefield. The adversary knows that as long as you are surrounded by the voices of the old world, he can use them to broadcast his frequency of doubt into your spirit. He uses the opinions of others as a social mirror to keep you trapped in a version of yourself that is small, manageable, and compliant. But the high-level file on your life revealed that you have developed a frequency of immunity to the shame of the crowd. When you stopped caring about the world's perception, you became a ghost to the system's primary method of control. The resignation of the influential figures we discussed was a direct result of this. They realized they no longer possessed the social leverage to keep you in line. The final battle is you versus the devil, because you have finally realized that you do not need an audience to be an authority. The enemy's most insidious tactic in this phase of the confrontation is the weaponization of time. He wants you to look at the calendar and feel a sense of frantic, low-vibrational panic. He points to your age, your bank account, and the missed opportunities of your past to convince you that you are behind schedule. He wants you to believe that the Friday morning window is a desperate, last-ditch effort to save a failing life, rather than the scheduled coronation of a victorious one. But the dossier on your spirit showed that you are operating on Kairos time, the time of the divine, rather than Chronos time, the linear time of the system. In the realm of the spirit, a single moment of alignment can redeem 40 years of wandering. The devil is trying to keep you in a scarcity mindset regarding time, because a person who is in a hurry is a person who is easy to trip. By making you feel like you're running out of time, he tricks you into making impulsive, ego-based decisions that pull you off your center. The final battle is the battle to stay in the eternal now, where all power resides. You must understand that the devil you are facing right now is also functioning as a spiritual auditor. He is searching your life for any remaining unresolved contracts, old grievances you haven't forgiven, secrets you're still hiding, or parts of your identity that are still seeking validation from the system. He looks for these legal entry points, because he cannot touch a soul that is fully integrated and transparent. The high-level resignation was a sign that the old audit failed. They couldn't find enough darkness in you to anchor a curse. But the enemy is persistent. He is currently digging into the basement of your subconscious, trying to stir up the dust of childhood traumas and ancestral failures. He wants to see if he can get you to flinch. He wants to see if you still believe that you are the product of your wounds rather than the product of your purpose. The urgency of this message is to remind you that your debt to the past was canceled the moment you accepted your calling. You are a new creation with a clean file, and the enemy is trying to collect on a ghost account. Furthermore, the adversary is utilizing the spirit of heavy comparison. He is broadcasting the highlight reels of others into your field of vision, making it seem as if everyone else is entering their promised land while you are stuck in a final, agonizing trial. He wants you to ask, "Why me?" so that you lose sight of, "Why not you?" Comparison is the thief of the chosen frequency. It forces you to look sideways when you should be looking upward. The file on your soul noted that your path is exclusive and non-transferable. It was never meant to look like anyone else's because it is producing a result that the world has never seen. The devil wants you to trade your unique, divine complexity for a generic, worldly success. He wants you to settle for the half-blessing, because he knows that if you hold out for the full manifestation, you will become a system breaker. This Friday morning is the point of no return for your unique code. Stand firm in your difference. Your isolation is not a punishment. It is the sanctification required for the level of authority you are about to exercise. The devil is also the master of the mirror, trying to convince you that the exhaustion you feel is a sign of defeat. He wants you to look at your reflection and see a person who has been worn down by life. But the spiritual reality is that you haven't been worn down, you have been stripped down. You have been stripped of the ego, the pretension, and the false dependencies that would have crushed you at the next level of altitude. The high-level file documented that your core strength has tripled during this season of silence. You are leaner, sharper, and more resilient than you have ever been. The enemy is trying to use your physical senses to gaslight you into believing you are weak, but your spirit knows that you are dangerously ready. The final battle is the battle to trust the internal weight of your authority over the external appearance of your fatigue. When you walk into that Friday morning window, you won't need muscles, you will need presence. And your presence is currently at its historical peak. As the countdown continues, realize that the enemy's roars are becoming more desperate because his invisibility shield has been compromised. You have started to see the wires. You have started to see the patterns. You are no longer a victim of bad luck. You are a discerner of spiritual interference. This level of clarity is what the system fears most. A chosen one who can see the devil is a chosen one who can no longer be ruled by him. The final battle is you versus the devil, because you are the only one in your bloodline who has stayed awake long enough to see the face of the jailer. This Friday morning, you are not just walking out of the cell, you are taking the keys with you. Stay in the observer mode. Do not get emotionally entangled in the enemy's last-minute dramas. He is trying to bait you into a low-vibrational argument or a fear-based reaction. Stay silent. Stay centered. The high-level resignation was the first crack in the dam, and your continued peace is the pressure that will break it wide open.